What's up, everybody? We are
Woo!
back. Hey,
What's up, my
guys,
guy?
welcome to it. What's up, my buddy? Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Armchair GMs, episode 4. This is your boy, Bugman Jay, and that guy over there.
Oh man. So fun week,
All right.
interesting
How you
week
doing,
for
brother?
football. I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I'm a little
Yes.
sore from putting in fence panels, just replacing some fencing. Come to find out that I'm going to get on a soapbox
Hmm.
here and a public service announcement for all those do-it-yourselfers out there. If you put in fence panels and you have to dig 36 inches below a frost line and you're putting 4x4s in, do the right thing. Do some concrete, please. I found out the fence panels that I'm putting in, I was just going to use the old post. Turns out I can't because there's no cement in. And if you live in the Midwest, that's very important. So that's my soapbox slash PSA for the week. Please, please, please do yourself a favor. Put in that cement, concrete, whatever for your 4x10s or 4x4x10s.
All right. Yeah. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. Yeah. Hey, I have my own little soapbox. I had issues with my Jeep. This is off a little bit, but little personal things. I had problems with my Jeep. My alternator went out, and come to find out, like the guy who previously owned it had stripped out the bracket for the compressor, so I had to replace the bracket. Go to a junkyard and find it. Long story short, we late night jam in and put it all back together. Come to find out, if you have a piece of rubber attached to a wire that goes up to the alternator, you might want to put that piece back on there. Maybe that rubber piece or silicone piece is keeping you from doing any damage. So yeah, I fried my alternator. Yeah,
Oof.
I
Oof.
grounded it out. Had to go buy a whole nother alternator and go through and do the whole process over again. So yeah, that was
See,
that was my dumb guy moment.
see, this is what I love about regular guys like us. We're do-it-yourselfers, and
Mhm.
home projects. In your case, car project, and it was just like sometimes you do learn from mistakes. Other times you're learning from other people's mistakes. So,
There you go. I'd rather be the latter than the former. I'm just
oh
saying.
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I mean, with me, I have enough knowledge and common sense to know what to do.
Hmm.
However, that's not to say I haven't made mistakes in the past. It's just like I've alluded to with these posts. It was just like, man, like what was the previous guy thinking? Like what in the world? But I digress. So it was a fun weekend of football, real interesting weekend.
Definitely.
What's I know you have something to rant about with your Atlanta Falcons. Do you want
Oh,
to go ahead and get that rant out, get it all out in the open before we get started?
okay. Yeah, they kind of got it last week as well, but it's gonna be some. It's here we go. We're just in it. We're in it right now. Okay. This is my weekly Atlanta Falcons rant. Um, it's not so bad, but it is really bad at the same time. I'm just gonna break this analogy down to you real quick, Matt. From what I can see from the offensive standpoint, we're not even going to talk about the defense because the defense looks to be a better unit than last year. Looks to be a much better unit than last year. Yet they can't score touchdowns, so they can only do so much. You know what I mean? But from what I can see from the offense, it's like if you had a 100-yard field, and that in your mind is the playbook for the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ritter's at the 10-yard line. Everything that they're doing is predictable, preseason, run of the mill offense. It's bland. It's like mashed potatoes with no kinds of salt or pepper in it or nothing. It's just so bland. And defenses can anticipate that because they know you're not going to go one progression, 2, 3, 4. They know you're not processing as quickly, and it shows that there's a handcuff clearly on Desmond Ridder. There's a handcuff on him as far as play calling and strategy, and their options seem to be as if they're limited, but there's so many. Their last 3 draft picks were in the top 10, every single one of them. But yet, this offense can't seem to build on anything momentum-wise. They are horrible on first drives of the game, horrible. And it just sucks that you just watch a very stagnant, vanilla offense go out there every week after seeing what we saw in week 1 and week 2. It looks totally opposite, but it also exacerbates that one big problem. The elephant in the room is Desmond Ridder's capability. Either you give him the keys and let him drive the car, or you park it. Because there's no in between. Because Arthur Blank is not going to be around forever. His predecessor's already being put into the works. So when you think about what he wants to see before he leaves out the door, it's not this. And for the great offensive mind that Arthur Smith is, the capabilities of the offense don't work to his strong suits. Would be A, running the football effectively, and B, using the run game to run play actions, RPOs, things of that nature. There's none of that right now. It's none of that. It's just oddball plays just thrown around and put together. And it's not going to work for any team that wants to play consistently because they're as inconsistent as it gets. Like coming up short after progressing past the 50-yard line is something you just can't have. You can't sustain drives up to a certain point and be like, oh, this is all we got. You got to dig in your bag of tricks because you show me you're a gutsy coach, play calling based on week 1 and week 2, but yet we see something totally different for week 3 and week 4. I don't know what it is, but to get off my little rant, I'm going to give you a stat. It's kind of encouraging a little bit, but it's also like glass half empty kind of thing. For the first 2 seasons, he's only played 8 games, total of 8 games. So it's basically just an extension of his rookie season. So he's still, in my mind, technically a rookie. So for his 8 games, he's thrown for 1,452 yards and 5 touchdowns to go along with 3 interceptions. So he's got a 2-to-1 ratio for interceptions and touchdown ratio, which is pretty decent. It's not where you want to be, but his first 8 games from the last year and from this year look almost identical. In the 4 games at the end of the year last year, he had 73 completions on 115 attempts, 63.5 completion percentage. This year, it's a little bit lower, 62.2, with a passer rating of 77.9. It's not the best, but if you saw his tape from college, you know what he's capable of. Putting the ball downfield, the accuracy to put the ball where it is. He comes from a high-powered offense, but yet you're not using his capabilities at all because you show everyone, including him, that you really don't trust him, and you got to speed the process up. You got to help accelerate the process by giving him easy plays that open up the offense. And that's just where I think about it. I'm not ready to give up on Desmond Ridder as so many other people are trying to do right now, and I don't think they are. It's just build the confidence in him by giving him a playbook that he can work on all his own and let him be a part of it, because that's what's going to help you in the long run. If he feels more comfortable doing the things that you want him to do, the better off the team will be. A comfortable quarterback, because the offensive line is only going to be able to do so much, which they've done enough, but they're lacking as well, especially at right tackle, but we're not going to talk about that today. But they got to give him more help and more confidence and work with him to expand his game, because it's got to happen if they want something this year. But anyway, that is my rant for the day.
And there we go.
There we go.
Trust me, I'm feeling the effects. I'm feeling the effects too because, like, I do have Kyle Pitts in one of my leagues, and it's
Mhm.
just like every time, like every week so far, it's just been like, throw him the ball, like please, like
Yes.
he had.
Like Johnny
He
Smith
had.
was getting all of the things that
I
should have went
know.
to Kyle
I
Pitts.
know. And it's just
But
like
they
it's
were
freaking killing me.
if I could play the alt 22, I could show you that they really bracketed him very well. They made him. That's why Drake London got as much as he got. Is because they were smothering Kyle Pitts. But I digress. It's God. We have to do better. But anyway, what do you want to start with today, bud?
I don't know. You got any news and notes that we can go over right now?
I can.
I was gonna say, let's touch on some news and notes real quick. I was gonna say, I didn't really even see any significant injuries this happened. Did you?
I got you. Von Miller
Ooh. Yeah, I do want to talk about that.
has an option to come back. He says, if I'm a betting man, I would say, yeah, you can expect to see Von Miller in London. What do you think about that? How much better do you think this defense would get if he's back for the London game?
I think it's going to be a vast difference
Mm-hmm.
because Von Miller has proven to be a leader, like that voice you want for your defense.
Yeah.
Like throughout his tenure in the NFL, he's a natural leader for your defense. So I mean, Buffalo's defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like they are much better with a player like Von Miller on the field.
There we go. Did you see any notable injuries?
Actually, yeah, I thought about one because I watched a majority of this game the other day. Justin Herbert, he has suffered a fractured left middle finger. It's his non-throwing hand, so
Yeah.
it's not as impacting as it could be.
But there's no
However,
playing under the snap or gripping that ball with that hand. Though.
yeah, I would expect a lot of shotgun formations out of the Chargers for the next few weeks. Kenny Pickett has got a bone bruise right now. As it stands right now, they're not ruling him out for Week 5, but they could choose to hold him out until after their Week 6 bye.
Okay.
Javonte Williams, he's got a little bit of a hip injury right now.
Yes.
And Devontae Adams, I forgot about this one as well, suffered an injury to his shoulder. So that's something to keep an eye on this week if you have him in your leagues, like I do. T. Higgins, I forgot about this one. He has a rib injury right now. It could keep him off the field for a while, according to CBS Sports right now. They're not saying exactly how long, but
it's not looking good.
No, it's not looking good. Which, honestly, I feel like the best course of action for Cincinnati, even though they didn't do it with Joe Burrow. I do feel like they should sit him out for a while, get him healthy. I do feel like they should sit Joe Burrow for a while, get him healthy. Because right now, the Bengals are on, I don't feel like they have an identity right now. Not to the degree that they had last year. And I think it's because they tried to rush Burrow out there way too quickly. Sure, you want Burrow on the field. He gives you your best, option to, win games. But you're not going to have much success when you're having a calf strain. I mean, he needed to, in my opinion, he should have been on IR for the first 4 weeks of the season. And I do feel like, he would be much better now if he went on IR.
Yes, instead of trying to play through it because it may hurt him in the long run.
Exactly. But those are
The
the
calf can turn to
injuries
an
that I
Achilles in a heartbeat.
do up.
A calf injury can turn into an Achilles injury very quickly.
Oh yeah, easily. And he's already got the torn ACL that he sustained from his rookie season. So
There
we
you
don't
go.
want it to get much worse, especially if I'm the GM of Cincinnati and I just paid Burrow all this money. It's just like I want my investment to be healthy.
There you go.
So
Because long run is better than short term success.
exactly. So Cincy, I know I'm just Midwestern guy and Podunk, Gas City, Indiana. But if it were me, I would sit Joe Burrow for a while, sit T. Higgins for a while, get your
Mm-hmm.
offense healthy.
Yes, definitely. I second that one. I could play devil's advocate, but I don't see the point in doing that. We have like mine on that one. So
All right. Well, shall we kick things off with our QB or our high performers and low performers for the week?
all right. Boom. All right. So we have some very usual suspects this week on my part. A lot of guys we've talked about before because of the longevity of the season. You're going to see guys come in and out, but there are going to be a select few that stick around. And this week, it happened to be Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the top performer in standard leagues this week with 320 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing attempts for 17 yards, and another touchdown for a total of 36.5 PPR points. That is awesome.
I felt the effect of that one. The guy that I'm in a league with, he had him, and after Josh Allen had that sort of game, there was no way for me to catch up. So
There you go.
I felt the effect of that.
All right. I'm going to run through a couple names most of us know, and I'm going to stop on one name, and we're going to talk about that one for a minute. But we also had number 2 was Anthony Richardson, who had a very decent bounce back game. The only thing I'm so sad about in my Veterans League, I left him on the bench and I started Jared Goff because I thought Jared Goff was going to take off this week. Do not rag me too hard for that one. But he didn't. So, lesson learned. He's going to be in my starting lineup because he gives you just too much of the best of both worlds. His pass completion rating was bad. It was 44%. He was 11 for 25 for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did also take 2 sacks in the game, and he had 10 rushes for 56 yards and another touchdown to give him a grand total of 29.6 PPR points. So that's a good number. That's you can get a little bit of pass and offense and a couple touchdowns, but the rushing is really what's going to give you that extra kick. So if you have Anthony Richardson, very few matchups, I believe, in my mind, can hinder him from being a baseline producer. QB2, maybe QB1, he'll win you some weeks. He may lose you some, but you just got to play the matchups. But anyway, go ahead.
So you left Anthony Richardson on your bench too, huh?
Yeah, because he was questionable all throughout the whole week.
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't really expect him. So I have Anthony Richardson in one of my leagues too, but I have Tua as my starter. So it's just it's hard to decide which one is going to go. And
there you go.
I was leaning more towards Tua
And you have every right to. You have every right to based on what you've seen from Anthony Richardson.
Oh yeah, and he was going up against the Rams, so it's kind of like, but then he proved me wrong. So yeah.
But FYI, I will never trust the Rams secondary. Never.
I'll give you that.
All right. I'm gonna run through. Let me give you 2 more names. We got Lamar Jackson, who I gave honorable mention to, but Justin Fields. That was the best game I've seen from him. Even though he lost, he gave it his all. To be able to have an 80% completion rating in a game where you throw more than 25, we have more than 25 pass attempts. That's almost unheard of. That's almost unheard of. So, and people are talking about they want to trade him. He had 4 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, and he had 4 rushes for 25 yards to give him a grand total of 28.9 fantasy points. If he can give you that, if he can give you something close to that every week, I'd start him every time. He's in the same boat to me as Anthony Richardson, but you'll see you can get a lot better passing game from him. And those are my winners for quarterback. To do honorable mention also goes out to Baker Mayfield. He had another good game.
All right. So for me, touching on running backs, my high performers for this week for running backs, I had Christian McCaffrey. He had 20 attempts, 106 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 7 receptions for 71 yards. A touchdown. He put up 48.7 points against the Cardinals. I'll be curious to see what he does against Dallas's defense in Week 5. I mean, he's going to get your points regardless, but it's just a matter of how many, and will Dallas be able to contain Christian McCaffrey?
There you go.
The thing with, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but San Francisco has so many weapons. It's like trying to figure out which one to stop. I also got David Montgomery. Last Thursday, he went on a tear, taking as much workload away from Jahmyr Gibbs as possible. 32 attempts for 121 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 20 yards for 34.1 points. And I also have Josh Jacobs as another high performer. He had 17 attempts for 58 yards, a touchdown, 8 receptions for 81 yards for 27.9 points against the Chargers. I would look for Jacobs to have another big week. He's going to, him and the Raiders are going to go up against Green Bay. However, with every high, there must be lows. So for my low performers, I got 2 names that come to mind. James Conner. I was expecting a better performance out of him. I mean, he kind of lit San Francisco up, in Week 3. I didn't expect to have the same type of game against Dallas, but I was expecting much better. He only put up 6.6 points against Dallas. Him and the Cardinals go up against the Bengals in Week 5. My other low performer, speaking of Cincy, Joe Mixon. 14 attempts for 67 yards, 1 reception for 9 yards for 8.6 points against the Titans. We just talked about it, the Bengals. I mean, right now they don't really have an identity offensively, so who knows? I mean, Mixon may be able to bounce back because Arizona is ranked 30th against the run so far this year. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll go back a step and I'll go to my losers at quarterback. First and foremost, I will have to go with Desmond Ridder, who went for 19 passes on 31 attempts, completion percentage of 61.3 for 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a grand total of 8.2 fantasy points. He's not a heavy start. He's only at 4.5%, but still a bad game. Kind of put the nail in the coffin on Joe Burrow. He's also on my loser list for this week. 20 for 30, 66.7%, 165 passing yards, 3 rushes for 1 yard, and a grand total of 4.7 fantasy points. Great game. Now, I'm going to give you a name that should be a good week, but it's not. Patrick Mahomes. Now, for as effective a quarterback with the least amount of elite talent wide receivers, he had a very bad game. For his ADP, he had a very bad and there's no way around it. He had 18 completions on 30 attempts, 60% completion rating for 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Rushing, 7 rushes for 51 yards. They gave him a grand total of 15.2 fantasy points. If it hadn't been for the rushing yards, he would have had less than 10 fantasy points.
Ooh.
So that just gives you the perspective of why it's a bad week. And it hasn't been the best weeks at that. If I'm not mistaken, he's maybe made his ADP 3. He may have made his projection for the week 3 times out of 5, which is still good, but that's not Patrick Mahomes like. And
you think it has anything to do with Taylor Swift?
Maybe so. I'm not going to speak ill of the Taylor Swift because I am a Swiftie.
Oh, I'm not either. I
I'm
live
just gonna
with
say
a Swiftie, so I can't.
I'm just going to say this. Distractions come and distractions go. You just got to ride the wave, man. Just got to ride the wave.
Otherwise, you got bad blood.
No, you didn't.
Oh, I did.
All right. We're going to switch gears over to wide receivers. Let me give you my winners and my losers. Didn't know we were doing it like that now, so I'm getting in the swing of things. All right. So you're going to hear my voice for a little while. Let me run through. I'm run through a couple of names. Top 5 is pretty much usual. Well, maybe with the exception of AJ Brown. AJ Brown's been playing pretty all right. But he had a really good game. 9 receptions on 13 targets for 175 yards. Average 19.4 yards per reception. His longest reception of the game was 59 yards. 6 20-plus yard receptions in one game. 6. Somebody else is on this list that has 8, but I'm not going to tell you who it is right now. And he had 2 touchdowns, no rushing yards for a grand total of 38.5 PPR points. All right, next candidate on the list is Stephon Diggs. 6 receptions on 7 targets, pretty efficient for 120 yards, average 20 yards per reception. Longest reception of the game was 55 yards, 4 20-plus yard receptions, 3 touchdowns. We give him a grand total of 36 fantasy points. And these guys are both 100% started, A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs. All right. The 2 guys of the hour, we're going to try to talk about them pretty quickly together. Nico Collins and Puka Nacua. These guys have become pretty consistent, more so for Puka Nacua, but Nico Collins is showing you why he is that guy in Houston, and that Tank Dell better just get his reps while he can, because if you need it, Nico's going to give it to you. 7 receptions on 9 targets for 168 yards, average 24 yards per reception. His longest catch of the day was 52 yards, 8 20-plus yard receptions, and 2 touchdowns for a grand total of 35.8 fantasy points, coming in at 3rd. And Puka Nacua, 9 for 10, 163, 1 touchdown, 31.3. And a guy that nobody's going to talk about, nobody knows about, but could be a future stash to use in the future. Michael Wilson with the Arizona Cardinals. He was a perfect 7 for 7 for 76 yards. Longest catch of the day was 33 yards and 2 touchdowns to give him a grand total of 26.6 fantasy points, and he's 2.2% drafted in leagues. He's drafted in about 2.2% of leagues. So, hint. But anyway, and my losers, let me slide down my list here. I got a good little list
before you get on to those,
yes.
Since Cooper Kupp is expected to come back soon, how much of a hit do you think that'll take on Puka's value and production?
I think it's definitely going to bump. It's going to be bumping him down from wide receiver 2 range down to possibly a flex at best, because he's only going to move down 1 slot, but his target share is probably going to get cut in half. So these weeks of having 30, 25, 30 fantasy points is going to go down to maybe 10, 12, 15 fantasy points. But can you use that still? I think he's going to find him a valuable spot in the offense as long as Matthew Stafford is the quarterback. And notice how I said that.
Oh, yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think, I don't know. Part of me kind of wants him to... I know he's not going to get as many looks his way once Cooper Kupp does come back healthy, so on and so forth. But, part of me does feel like he's kind of deserving of that, wide receiver 1 role. I know it's hard for him to take that, 1, as a rookie, 2, against Cooper Kupp, who got the Triple Crown, 2 years ago? I believe, 2 years ago. So, Cooper Kupp's great, and Cooper Kupp is, a top-tier talent as far as wide receivers go in today's NFL. But, I feel like Puka has really proven himself as he could be a number 1, if not now, then definitely in the future.
Kind of like if I want to put it into a mind frame, kind of like a transition from Wes Welker to Julian Edelman type of deal.
Oh yeah, that's actually a great comparison. I like that.
Came out of nowhere, just took that job. But yeah. But I digress. All right, I'm going to give you my 2 losers for this week. I only really have 2 losers. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. But we have DeAndre Hopkins with 4 receptions on 6 targets for 63 yards, no touchdowns, 10.3 fantasy points. He started in 94% of leagues, so he did not make his projection for this week, and neither did this guy, which really surprised me how the Buffalo Bills shut down Miami. And Tyreek Hill really suffered a letdown game. 3 catches on 5 targets for 56 yards. He did not. He did have 1 touchdown. They gave him a grand total of 10.3 fantasy points, which is pretty short of the 30, 35 fantasy points we were getting in the first couple of weeks, mixed in. So hopefully it's just a drop in the pan, and next week they'll get back to the magic. I don't know off the top of my head their matchups for next week. Let me look. Oh, they're playing the Giants. So yeah, that'll be a chance for them to get back into the mix in week 5. A couple of these quarterbacks, especially Patrick Mahomes, he'll get a chance to get back in relief as well. So there's opportunity for Tyreek Hill to have a better week, but this week was just not that week. And that is my lows, highs and lows for wide receiver.
So for tight ends, my high performers for this week. First one is Cole Kmet. 7 receptions for 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing attempt for 1 yard. He had 27.6 yards against Denver. 27.6 points against Denver. Maybe Chicago found their... No, they didn't find their identity. Sorry, they're still 0-4.
0-4.
But it was a great game for Justin Fields.
It was a great game.
Both, so
yes.
I will give them that.
And honorable mention also to DJ Moore. He also had a pretty decent game, too.
Oh, yeah. I'd be a little wary on starting some of the Bears' offensive weapons. They do go up against Washington in Week 5.
Yes.
And right now, Washington is ranked number 1 against the pass so far this year. So that's something to be wary of if for all you Bears fans or Bears fantasy owners out there. Second one, I'm giving to Mark Andrews. 5 targets, 5 receptions for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns for 25 points even against Cleveland.
Finally.
Yeah, honestly, I expect him to have another decent week against Pittsburgh in Week 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be a little surprised if he didn't. And my third one, I know this is gonna sting a little bit. Jonnu Smith,
There you go. I
not
knew it was going.
not Kyle Pitts.
Not Kyle Pitts.
Dang it. 6 receptions for 95 yards for 15.5 points against Jacksonville across the pond in foggy London town.
There you go.
Me personally, I guess I just expected Kyle Pitts to really, rise to the occasion because his rookie year,
Mm-hmm.
the game in London against the Jets, I believe, like he had a magnificent performance. I was kind of hoping Lightning would strike twice.
Yeah, but not this time.
Unfortunately, it did not. So,
And you want to know something that's really funny? Jonnu Smith, you know how rostered he is right now?
I'll get to that. Well, actually, yeah. I do have that because he's one of my waiver wire pickups recommendations for this week. 1%. 1% on Yahoo. Like, how?
How? Because they expect it all to go to Kyle Pitts.
True. I'll give you that.
Hey, the tight end system has shown to be plentiful before.
True. So for my low performers, my first one is going to TJ Hawkinson. Granted, yes, Minnesota finally got a W this past week. 1-3, there we go. But with TJ's performance, it was abysmal at best.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 receptions for only 24 yards, only gaining 4.4 points in fantasy. I look for him to bounce back against Kansas City in Week 5. It'll be, my opinion, battle of the tight ends. They're going to be playing host to Kansas City this week, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of Swifties going to Minnesota this week.
There you go.
My other low performer, sorry, you already know it. It's Kyle Pitts. 2 receptions, 21 yards, 4.1 points. I don't know. I kind of want to get your opinion on something. Or if there's any, truth to the rumors, since, you are an Atlanta fan.
Yeah.
What's the possibility of Kyle Pitts getting traded from Atlanta right now? Is it high, low? Or is there any truth to the rumors? Nope.
Can't afford to. It's. I don't think that Kyle Pitts will be an option to be traded because draft capital does not get you a title in the short term. So that would be an off-season type of thing if this were to fall apart, unless they were looking to do something that's in the modern era of football has not been done much, player for player trade, which doesn't happen much in the NFL. So
not these days.
That's the only thing I could think that would be a motivating switch, because draft capital does nothing for your short-term goals and what they're trying to do now. So I don't think there's any kind of – it's just people talk. Just like they've talked about Justin Fields being an option for Atlanta this year, which is kind of crazy, or going to taking a shot on Trey Lance, or, going to get Kirk Cousins, or going to do this. It's just talk. It's nothing. Even if teams reach out, Atlanta's not too fond of. They shouldn't be too fond of getting rid of former first-round draft picks, especially if the player doesn't want to go anywhere.
Right.
There's no incentive.
No.
But if it happens, it's as likely to happen as it's not likely to happen. You know what I mean? So it's whatever comes on the table. There may be some deal out there we're not even thinking of right now that's just too good to pass up. Or maybe just they may blow up the ship after 8 weeks. Who knows? We have no idea. It's 17 games. But I think they're trying to win. And if it's not something that's going to help them win, because you're not going to do any good taking away talent from the offense, unless you're adding something that's equal or even greater that helps you in a position that you're lacking in. You know what I mean?
All right then. Well, you want to touch on some waiver wire pickups?
Sure, buddy.
Let's get going with it. What do you got for waiver wire pickups for QB?
Oh man, now it's kind of scarce. There's a couple of names that I'm just going to throw out there, especially for deeper leagues. First and foremost would be Baker Mayfield. He's been showing to be playing pretty consistent football. I wouldn't take too much. I wouldn't take him to be an elite quarterback, but a QB2, 2 QB league, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good option, especially in deeper leagues. As we also say, Joshua Dobbs is another good option. He's becoming better. He's building more rhythm. He's putting up more passing yards. His completion percentage is staying above 65%. So that is something that you want. He's not throwing interceptions. Means he's not turning the ball over. And he's averaging close to 22 fantasy points a game. You can live with that, especially in deeper leagues. I'm going to give you one more name. Not Russell Wilson. No, I'm so sorry. I never wish that upon anyone.
I mean, he had a decent game, last week or this past weekend.
I take a bigger flyer on Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Especially in deeper leagues. The game he put up, the game he showed, 71.8% completion rating. Good. Basically, this is the leap that most quarterbacks go through, especially when they build confidence, especially when they know that the game's on their back. And he, even though he didn't win, he had a very good game. And there was nothing but praise for him after that game because you could tell he was doing all the things that you want your quarterback to do. And that is all you really can ask for. And just a little bit more help from the defense, and that game could have been a lot better. But I digress. Pick him up. He's only available. He's available. he's only 2.5% rostered.
Oh wow!
Take a shot. It may pay off. It may help you to get through the hump, especially going towards the bye weeks. He's streamable. So is Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud, Sam Howell, especially in deeper leagues. Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence is 90% rostered. Maybe even Matthew Stafford in deeper 16-team leagues. You could use the help. He was pretty consistent. And those are my waiver wire pickups for quarterback. I'll let you.
So for running backs, there are two names that really come to mind for me. The first one is Chuba Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
This past weekend, he had more snaps than Miles Sanders against Minnesota. And Miles Sanders is currently nursing a groin injury at the moment. I'd look for Chuba to get quite the boost in his workload. Currently, he's only rostered 25% in leagues on Yahoo Fantasy. And the other name that really jumps out to me is Elijah Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey, sure, he's on a roll right now. I mean, there's no stopping CMC once he gets going, except for injuries. I mean,
there you go.
How often does it happen where, players who have McCaffrey on their roster, like he has a lot of big games, he's on a roll, and then boom, injury bug hits, and then it's just like crap. Well, now what? Well, Elijah Mitchell, I mean, over the years, he's
about his best as well.
Oh, yeah.
But he was consistent when he was on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's definitely given people a lot of points when given the opportunity. So right now he is only 30% rostered on NFL Fantasy. So those are my two waiver wire pickups that I'd look at for running backs right now. Who you got for wide receivers?
Wide receivers, I got a few names this week. It's like it's like gold mining here. It's a plethora. It's good. It's a good little solid group. Some probably more for the future, maybe some for right now. I'm going to start with the right now. Romeo Dobbs, his last game, he had 9 catches from 13 targets. So it looks like he's getting the lion's share of the targets right now, especially with Christian Watson being up and down so far this season, and he seemed to be doing pretty well with it. And he's getting a pretty decent amount of fantasy points every week, and he's only 44% rostered. Another name I'm going to throw out there is Curtis Samuel, especially in deeper leagues. He's only 10.8% rostered. Another name that you might need to remember is Braxton Berrios, 6 for 6 last week, and he's getting a consistent share. He's a consideration for wide receiver 3, possibly flex. He's only 2.5% rostered. And let me see. There was one more here. No, that's it.
For me, for tight ends, first one, I'm going with Dalton Schultz from Houston. CJ Stroud has actually, kind of exceeded my expectations for him, especially for an Ohio State product. And he's getting the ball around to everyone. Dalton Schultz is getting the targets that, getting the touches that, could help or like make or break you for fantasy, especially at the tight end position where it's been kind of inconsistent.
Yeah.
But Dalton this past week, he was actually able to pick up 3 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers. He's only 60.9% rostered in NFL fantasy. So if he's available in the league, I would highly recommend picking him up, especially if you are struggling at the tight end position. Another name, we mentioned it earlier. I'm going to throw it out there again, even though he's technically tight end too. I'm sure he might bypass, but I'm going with Jonnu Smith as another pickup. Like we mentioned, he's 1% rostered on Yahoo Fantasy, and I was looking on NFL Fantasy. I think it's at 0.1% rostered. So,
yeah, his consensus average is 0.7% rostered.
Yeah, so
he's out there.
I'm going to throw the name out there. I say pick him up. What else you got to lose?
There you go.
Tight ends are really kind of like a unicorn at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
A third name and final name that I'm going to throw out there though is Hunter Henry.
Mm-hmm.
He's 72% rostered. I know the past couple weeks have been a little rough, but I mean, he went up against Dallas this past week. He's going to be going up against New Orleans this week. I mean, and then in week 7, he goes up against Buffalo. But he's kind of become like a reliable target for Mac Jones when Mac Jones has a good game. So by all means, I say pick up Hunter Henry. Nothing else, stash him for when your main tight end goes on a bye week, or if your main tight end goes down. At least then you have a backup option for Hunter Henry.
There you go.
What else do we want to cover?
I think that about does it.
I think that about does it this week.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get to ads this week, but we are going to talk up fresh cuts. Be sure to get a hold of Caleb Kemper to get in and get fresh. By all means, he's located in Marion, Indiana. Hit him up for all your stylish needs.
There you go. All right. Well, I hope what we brought you guys tonight will really be valuable for this week. One word of advice: if you guys have, if some for reason A-Chain is still available, you guys need to go out and get him. Matt, I've seen some leaks where people still have not caught up to the fact that A-Chain is that guy. And
I forgot to mention him. So that's another name that I should have mentioned him. But thanks for picking me up on that.
Oh, I got your back, bud. But anyway, I'm Bugman Jay.
I'm Matt.
And this is Sideline Armchair GMs. brought to you by Blitz and Cake Podcast. You guys have a good evening. Peace.
Peace out.